For me, this was a big slap on my face because prior to these 300 interviews for 8 years as an entrepreneur, I felt I am the expert in my business. Nobody else can do what I can do the way I can do it. In this video, I'm going to break down for you 3 overrated leadership qualities that many of us place at a pedestal but actually are not the defining elements of building a successful business, and 3 underrated leadership qualities that many of us ignore but are actually pivotal in building a scalable, profitable, successful business and a competent, capable team. When I was in the interviewing journey and I was interviewing 300 business leaders for my book Lead or Bleed, I fell into a trap of judgment because sometimes I would meet a CEO of a big brand, but I would walk out of that interview feeling extremely unimpressed. I would feel like, what? How did he build such a big company? Or how did she build such a big brand? And I would look up to God and say, you are unfair. Look at that person. No charisma, no energy. And look at me. I'm so talented, I'm so capable, and they've been able to build such a big business and I'm struggling to build a business. Well, soon that judgment turned into reflection where I decided to keep my personal filters aside of who an ideal leader is, and I went with a more curious mindset to understand what makes people tick in business, what makes that person build a successful business. And that's when I realized one of the most overrated leadership capabilities is charisma. Many people place this ability to be charismatic at a pedestal and they feel wowed by those who have charisma, and they feel very timid and small when they lack the charisma. One thing I can assure you and tell you, out of 300 business leaders who've built some of the most successful brands, I don't think majority of them carried charisma. Most of them were very silent, timid people. But the truth is that they've built some of the biggest brands in the country. So in your list of leadership qualities that you want to develop in yourself, if you are not naturally charismatic, don't give it too much importance. Take this bubble called charisma and throw it in the dustbin, because I can tell you factually, you don't need charisma to build a successful business. It's an overrated leadership skill. The second overrated leadership capability is the ability to be an expert in whatever you are doing. That is overrated. Expertise is overrated. Now you must be like, Rajiv, what nonsense are you talking? But here's the truth. When I was doing those 300 business leaders interviews, here's what I realized. The leaders who have an expertise in any area, either the product or the marketing or the sales or the finances, what happens is this: with expertise comes the trap and the burden of doing it by yourself. Because if you are the expert, nobody else on your team can do that particular task or that work as well as you can do it. So the temptation is to be hands-on and sit and do that work. And when you are being hands-on and sitting and doing a particular activity for the business, you are falling into the trap of using your time, energy and effort in a day-to-day activity instead of staying away from day-to-day so you can focus on growth and expansion. For me, this was a big slap on my face because prior to these 300 interviews for 8 years as an entrepreneur, I used to feel proud of my expertise in selling, my expertise in training, my expertise in managing customers, and I felt I am the expert in my business. Nobody else can do what I can do the way I can do it. But through these 300 interviews, I realized being an expert is a curse. It makes you very micro. It ties you up. And you are not willing to let go of it because you are clearly the expert in that area and you feel nobody can do the job as well as you can do it in that area. So the second overrated leadership capability is any kind of expertise. Now this was a big paradigm shift for me, is that you don't have to be an expert in one thing. You got to know everything, but you don't have to do everything. And sometimes having an expertise makes you the doer, which is a trap. The third leadership capability that's extremely overrated, and especially in today's day and age of social media, is hustling. People glorify hustling. People glorify hustlers, saying, I'm a hustler. I figure things out on the go. I need to be busy all the time. I need to make things happen. I can't stay still. I got to be on the move. If you want to build something that is scalable and sustainable, hustling is a bad habit because you end up disrupting all the time. In fact, what I realized was that those 300 business leaders are not hustlers, they are builders. They build teams, systems, strategies that are able to scale the operations and the impact of the business. They are not sitting and hustling. In fact, if you look around yourself, hustlers make very, very poor leaders, because hustlers are always pushing people irrationally without clarity of direction, and they're wondering, why are people not hustling like them? Hustling is actually the enemy of scaling, because if you're hustling, you can't scale. You're doing stuff by yourself and you're firefighting all the time. So hustling is actually a leadership capability in business, which is extremely overrated if you're serious about building a scalable, profitable business. So those are the 3 overrated leadership qualities. Now, let's look at what are the 3 underrated leadership qualities. 3 leadership qualities that can take you very, very far ahead. But most people don't celebrate it because they don't attach it to the charisma, to the glamour, to the hustling, and that's why they ignore it. So let's dive into understanding what are the 3 underrated leadership qualities in business. The first most underrated leadership quality in business is listening. Most people think a great leader is the one who can inspire, who can motivate, who can give the speech of a lifetime. But here's the truth. Powerful leaders are those who listen. Because when you are listening, when you're good at listening, you allow people around you to express themselves. When you allow people around you to express themselves, then they are engaged. When they are engaged, they take ownership. And as a good listener, you absorb and you are able to give specific modifications and feedback that could shift the orbit of the performance of your team members. Listening is so underrated because people have this glamorous view of who a leader should be, and they forget that the most powerful form of leadership is actually silent leadership, where you are listening and you are reflecting on what people are saying and asking them the right questions and channelizing their thought process capabilities, intelligence, and effort in the right direction. One of the things I learned from those 300 business leaders is that they were all amazing listeners. They had a stillness about themselves where they didn't have the need to talk. They could stay silent, process, but you can still feel their presence in a room. And that comes because they mastered the craft of listening. I truly believe listening is an extremely underrated capability of leadership, which needs to be celebrated more, recognized more, and developed more. So that was the first one. The second underrated leadership capability is a sense of curiosity. Great leaders ask a lot of questions. They are curious by nature. They want to understand, why do people do what they do? Why do people think how they think? Be it customers, be it team members, be it partners, be it associates, be it vendors. Great leaders are constantly asking questions and understanding the worldview of all their stakeholders. And once they understand the worldview and get the pearls of wisdom from all the stakeholders, they have this beautiful ability to put those pearls together in a string where everybody values the value of what the leader has created. I believe curiosity is so underrated. I can't even tell you, I can't get started. The quality of questions determines the quality of life that you live. And for you to have and ask high quality questions, you need to have the ability to stay curious. Sometimes as you grow and as you achieve, your curiosity diminishes because you start believing you know the game. But the ones who are able to achieve great heights and still remain curious are what you call masterful leaders. And I have had the pleasure and honor to be able to interview some of them and feature them in this book, Lead or Bleed. And what I loved about them is their undying curiosity, their undying need to understand, why do people do what they do? Why do people think what they think? What drives people? What motivates people? What gets people to tick? What gets people to act? And that curiosity is what makes them very, very thoughtful creators with a lot of depth in whatever they do. And the third underrated leadership capability is vulnerability. What is vulnerability? Vulnerability is the ability to be open, to be transparent, and even sometimes to be weak and share your challenges, your insecurities, your gray areas, your blind spots. Now you may wonder, Rajiv, how does anybody benefit from being vulnerable? Won't people take advantage of our vulnerability as a leader? Here's what I realized. Out of those 300 interviews with those business leaders, what I realized was the reason why they are able to build massive organizations and very, very impactful brands is because they are vulnerable. They ask for support. They share their challenges with their team members. They are willing to share responsibility. They are not having this misplaced concept of leadership where everything needs to be done by me and I should not share any of my challenges with my team. They believe in the power of shared responsibility and shared ownership, and you are able to access into shared responsibility and shared ownership only when you are vulnerable enough to say, I don't know this, or I'm facing a challenge here, or I need support here. In fact, I read this somewhere that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. Most people on the planet look at vulnerability as weakness, that if a person's open and transparent, that means they're weak. But here's the truth, vulnerability is a sign of strength. Only a person who's fully secure about themselves, about who they are, can be open and vulnerable. A person who's insecure and a person who puts this pressure of perfection on themselves can never be vulnerable. And if you can't be vulnerable, you can't take people along with you, because you're isolating yourself from people where you're trying to put up this act that you're the superhuman who has the answers to every single problem on the planet and you'll figure it out by yourself. And people feel isolated from you. They can't relate to you. They feel you're too good to be true or you're a bloody sham. But when you're vulnerable, you're real. And when you're real, that authenticity is what appeals to people to stick with you and do whatever it takes to fulfill that vision. Vulnerability is an extremely underrated leadership quality. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I've shared with you 3 overrated leadership qualities and 3 underrated leadership qualities that had a deep impact on my ability as a business leader myself through the 300 interviews that I did from October 2014 to December 2015 for my book Lead or Bleed. And I hope you found this video useful to reflect on yourself and look at what are those overrated capabilities that you're placing at a pedestal and what are those underrated capabilities as a leader that you're ignoring, so you can imbibe them and actually shift the orbit of your leadership ability. So with that, I come to the end of this video, but before I leave you, there are 2 things I need you to do. Number 1, I want you to click on the subscribe button of my YouTube channel, because I keep creating content which is of value to business owners. You may not see me dance on Kacha Badam, but I can promise you that I'll give you always deep content for reflection, realization, and next level results for your business. So click on the subscribe button, and also make sure that you click on the link below and register yourself for my upcoming 4-hour live training called the Business Breakthrough Seminar, where I break down for you the pathway of building a business which can grow without you. You don't deserve to be in the trap of self-employment and stay firefighting in your business on a daily basis. You need to focus on growth and expansion. For you to be able to do that, I want you to come to the Business Breakthrough Seminar so I can help you understand what it takes to build a business which can grow without you. With that, this is Rajiv Talreja signing off. I look forward to seeing you in my next video.